السلام عليكم. صلوات على النبي محمد وآل محمد. During the last 5 presentations that I've given here, they set the foundation of Ahl al-Bayt and how to prove that the Imams are the true and the only true successors following the Prophet Muhammad. What I built for you in the last 5 days is the cake, like a cake. But the cake without, as my brother-in-law Hussein would say, without the icing or frosting is not tasty at all. And the analysis is the icing for the cake. The verse in the Quran says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَلَا تَكْتُمُوا الْحَقَّ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ صَدَقَ اللَّهُ الْعَلِيُّ الْعَظِيمُ. You cannot cover truth with falsehood, nor can you conceal the truth when you know what it is. In Islam, we have the concept of yaqeen, certainty. It's the ilm yaqeen, ayn yaqeen, wal haqq yaqeen. You have the knowledge of certainty, the perception of certainty, the truth of certainty. You know, if you saw smoke, a fire, smoke, your knowledge of certainty tells you that there must have been fire from which the smoke emanates, comes from. As you trek to go to where the smoke is, you finally see the fire. That's ayn yaqeen, the perception of certainty. But when you put your hands near the fire, you feel the heat of haqq yaqeen, the truth of certainty. So far, I've given you ilm yaqeen wa ayn yaqeen. Tonight, you get al-haqq yaqeen. You get the truth of certainty as the proof of the Imams are the true successors. We'll begin with that, following the death of Prophet Muhammad, the Sirat al-Mustaqim, or the straight path, or the succession to the Khalifa became a problem. And we find that when Prophet Muhammad died, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was busy with the funeral preparations of his father-in-law and first cousin, being the Prophet. During the time of the honorary bathing, the ghusl, the honorary bathing of the Prophet, and the shrouding of the Prophet, that was conducted by Imam Ali and his close relatives, some of the companions, including Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman, decided to attend a meeting in a place called Saqifa in order to elect a caliph. Now, Saqifa is like a roofed building used by the tribe called Banu Sa'ida, or the faction of Bani Khazraj tribe of the city of Medina. Now, you may think, well, okay, they went off to this off-site to elect the caliph. But bear in mind, the Prophet just died. Funeral arrangements are being made. Where are the companions? The companions went to Saqifa because in their mind, at least what they tried to justify, they wanted to thwart off the challenge for the Khalifa by the Muslims of Medina, who were mainly 2 opposing groups, Al-Ansar from Aus al-Khazraj and Al-Muhajirun. The latter, Muhajirun, was from the Quraysh tribe who had migrated from Mecca to Medina. Now, the sad commentary, when the companions, the Ansar, the Muhajirun, couldn't wait until after the funeral of the Prophet to conduct this meeting. Most disconcerting is that the companions did not bother to tell Imam Ali or the Prophet's uncle Abbas about the meeting. What was the underlying purpose of this meeting that neglected to invite the members of Bani Hashim, the Quraysh clan of Prophet Muhammad? The Prophet's companions took the position that a caliph needed to be elected in order to safeguard the ummah, the community, as the vacuum of leadership would threaten the unity of the Muslims. Hence, as the Muslim community was in grief and an honorary ghusl and shrouding were taking place by the next of kin, an election was taking place to install the new leader at the same time. So as a result, the Pledge of Allegiance to Abu Bakr was given at the same time the funeral preparation of the Prophet were in process. Now, according to the Sunni version of the Prophet's funeral prayer, they state that Abu Bakr had given instructions to the Muslim men to pray in small groups until they all finished, then the women and thereafter the children, followed by the bondsmen and bondswomen, would pray until they all finished. Therefore, no one led the prayer as an imam, as a leader. That's from Ibn Majah, volume 2, book 6, hadith 1628. Ibn Majah is one of the 6 kutub as-sitta, the reliable ones that all the Sunnis say yes, whatever they say, fine. So, however, in absence of a ruler, the nearest of kin, Wali, the Prophet Muhammad, which is Imam Ali and his uncle Abbas, would have this right to be the imam of the prayer. Some Sunni scholars and historians argue that neither the ritual bath nor an imam leading the prayer was needed, as the Prophet was pure by the divine grace, look, the divine grace of Allah. So why was one ghusl applied and the other, imam leading the prayer, not applied, if the Prophet were not in need of either of the two? The reality is that since the Muslim community, including Abu Bakr and the other companions, did not contest to the ghusl bathing and shrouding, then it stands to reason that the imam of the funeral prayer was also required. If not, then why do we today have a funeral prayer for the deceased with an imam leading the prayer? Can our Prophet expect anything less? Moreover, it was Umar and who led the funeral prayer on Abu Bakr when he died. Why is it right for Umar to lead the funeral prayer on Abu Bakr but not to have an imam lead the funeral prayer on the Prophet? Since Abu Bakr became caliph, what prevented him from leading the funeral prayer on Prophet Muhammad? If Abu Bakr didn't want to lead the funeral prayer on Prophet Muhammad, then why didn't he have Imam Ali lead the funeral prayer? After all, Imam Ali was the closest of kin to the Prophet and the one who bathed and shrouded him. Abu Bakr and Umar were both Prophet Muhammad's father-in-laws. This you have to really understand. Abu Bakr and Umar were both the father-in-laws of Prophet Muhammad. Abu Bakr's daughter Aisha was the wife of the Prophet, and Umar's daughter Hafsa was also the wife of the Prophet. Uthman was the Prophet's first cousin, and according to Sunni historians, not Shia, according to Sunni historians, his son-in-law having married 2 of the Prophet's daughters, both who had died during the lifetime of the Prophet. Yet they found it more appropriate to attend the meeting at Saqifa at the time of grief and mourning. These 3 companions of the Prophet sacrificed a great deal of their wealth and status in order to support the Prophet in the formative and critical stage of the early years of Islam. They had positive energy. But then somewhere along the line, that positive energy turned into negative energy. So however, once the Prophet died, these 3 companions took the position that it was necessary to immediately elect a caliph. Before conducting an election, why couldn't these 3 companions have waited until after the 3 days of mourning? It's only 3 days. In Islam, it's 3 days, not 7 days, 40. It's 3 days of mourning. Why didn't they wait until Imam Ali could be present? As the Prophet was the son-in-law to Abu Bakr and Umar, shouldn't they have been present during the bathing and shrouding in order to stand in line with Imam Ali, Abbas, and other kids to receive the Muslim community at the time of grief and mourning? Does Islam teach us that an election is of a higher priority than the grief and mourning of a family member? After all, this was not just an ordinary person that had died, it was the Prophet himself. In the years following the event at Saqifa, Imam Ali decided not to pursue his right to the Khalifa, as it would cause more infighting amongst the early Muslims. Rather, he chose the course of unity. In order to protect and defend Islam from the outside forces that wanted to destroy it. There were the Jewish tribes of Bani Qurayza and Bani Nazar. There was a Christian tribe of Bani Najran. There were the Munafiqeen in Medina. There were the pagans, the Byzantines, the Persian. All of these were just waiting to come on their camels to march into Mecca without even lifting their swords and to destroy Islam. Islam was very weak at the time. It still wasn't strong enough, so Imam Ali could not risk the infighting. Moreover, the first three caliphs relied heavily on the advice of Imam Ali during times of confusion and distress, even when they became Khalifa. Prophet Muhammad's farewell sermon at Ghadir Khum fell on deaf ears as Abu Bakr and Umar ibn Khattab decided who would be caliph. Why did the Shura Council elect Abu Bakr as caliph in absence of Imam Ali, who at the time was preparing and conducting the funeral services of Prophet Muhammad? Why was Umar ibn Khattab and Uthman appointed caliph without election by the Shura Council? Why could Abu Bakr and Abdurrahman ibn Auf appoint a caliph and Prophet Muhammad could not? Imam Ali reclaimed his right as caliph by the divine grace of Allah, as the only other contestants, Talha and Zubair, withdrew and supported Imam Ali. Even in the case of Uthman becoming caliph, there were trickery perpetrated by Abdurrahman ibn Auf to ensure that Uthman was selected. After 3 of the 6 candidates chosen by Umar had dropped out, only Abdurrahman ibn Auf, Uthman, and Imam Ali remained, just 3. Abdurrahman ibn Auf withdrew his candidacy. It was all planned between him and Umar. He withdrew his candidacy, leaving Uthman and Imam Ali as the final 2 contestants. Abdurrahman ibn Auf acted as arbitrator and questioned each of the 2 remaining candidates as to whether they would act according to the Quran, the Sunnah, and the policies of the 2 previous caliphs of Abu Bakr and Umar. Imam Ali replied that he would act according to the Quran and Sunnah, but would not follow the opinions of others. However, Uthman replied in the affirmative to all 3 conditions, and Abdurrahman ibn Auf gave his verdict in favor of Uthman. An examination of the leadership of Prophet Muhammad discloses that he never failed to appoint a successor when necessary. Whenever he left Medina, he would appoint a governor in his own place. Or he would appoint a general to lead the army, for example, Usama ibn Zayd. The Prophet paid attention to every detail in his leadership and acted accordingly. So the question arises, how could the Prophet be concerned about the minute details regarding diet, hygiene, prayer, fasting, charity, etc., and be silent about the importance of appointing a successor? If appointment by Prophet Muhammad as to who would be his successor is not honored, then any appointments or elections thereafter become null and void. As can be noted, the necessity of appointment by Prophet Muhammad comes full circle. After a period of 24 years, Imam Ali finally reclaims his right to become caliph. Not only did Imam Ali reclaim his right to the Khalifa, but also equally important, he set the foundation for the Khalifa to pass on to the Imamate of Ahl al-Bayt. Unfortunately, with the martyrdom of Imam Ali, evil forces began to manipulate the Ummah, the community, in order to unjustly take the Khalifa away from the Imamate. Moreover, Muawiyah schemed to take the Khalifa away from Imam Hassan and Ahl al-Bayt by having the Imam's wife poison him. Thereafter, the position of caliph passed on to Muawiyah's son Yazid, and as a result, the Islamic Ummah fell into disarray, corruption, and fear of oppression and persecution to anyone who defied the unjust leadership of Yazid. Sunnis argue that the succession of the Khalifa, based on heredity from Prophet Muhammad to Imam Ali and his progeny, is unacceptable. Yet, Sunnis accept the succession of the Khalifa based on heredity from Muawiyah to his offspring and Bani Umayyah, a clan within the Quraysh tribe. Double standard. Sunnis recognize three principles for selecting a caliph. One is Majlis Ashura, that's a consultative council, whereby selection is done by a group of the best, most Islamically knowledgeable people in a society, not by a general vote of everyone. Second could be nomination by a previous caliph. And third, forceful seizure of power, for example, military. A fourth principle for choosing a caliph is ijma, which is the consensus of men of power and position at a certain point. Now here, you need to focus, because this is now where it comes, it is etched in stone. What I'm going to give you now about the proof, unequivocally, by the Sunnis' criteria, unequivocally state that only the Imams of Ahlul Bayt can be the successors. Okay. The Sunnis consider the following prerequisites, 7, to be a caliph. He must be a Muslim. He must be a man. He must be knowledgeable in Islam and be able to make independent decisions if necessary. He must be just, have good morals, and be trustworthy. He must be physically able, not handicapped, spiritually brave and helpful to protect the Ummah against its enemies. He must be politically, militarily, and administratively experienced. And he must be from the tribe of Quraysh. These are the 7. Let's look at that. Based on these 7 Sunni prerequisites to becoming a caliph, undeniably and unequivocally, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was the only one who not only self-actualized in each of the 7 prerequisites, but also overwhelmingly was superior to anyone else in this regard. Let's take the first 3, being a Muslim, being a man, and from the tribe of Quraysh, the first 3 prerequisites. Well, Imam Ali is from the clan of Bani Hashim, in the Quraysh tribe, and the first male after Prophet Muhammad to accept Islam. So on the first 3, he's tops. Let's look at the 4th prerequisite. Knowledgeable in Islam, able to make independent decisions. Prophet Muhammad said, I am the city of knowledge and Ali is its gate. You find that in Al-Tirmidhi, volume 6, book 46, hadith 3723. Al-Tirmidhi is one of the 6 kutub that the Sunnis completely rely on. Prophet Muhammad said, the most knowledgeable person in my nation after me is Ali. We go to Shafi'i. Is one of the 4 imams of the Sunnis. Abu Bakr said, may Allah never put me in a situation where I cannot have access to Abu Hassan, that's Imam Ali, to solve a problem. Umar ibn Khattab used to beg Allah to preserve him from a perplexing case which the father of Hassan, Imam Ali, was not present to decide. Umar ibn Khattab said, if there were not Ali, Umar would have been ruined. This comes from Ahmad ibn Hanbal, volume 2, page 647. What about the 5th prerequisite? Just, moral, and trustworthy. Ibn Abbas heard Umar ibn Khattab saying, the best judge among us is Ali. That's in Sahih Bukhari, volume 6, book 65, hadith 4481. Sahih means authentic. When you talk about Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, they believe everything is authentic. There is no mawdu, fabricated, there's no Hassan, good, there's no Da'if, weak. It is all authentic. So, Bukhari says, according to what Umar said, best judge among us is Ali. Prophet Muhammad said, comes from Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Ali is the wisest and superior to all of you. He is the best judge among you. In Ibn Majah, one of the 6 books, volume 1, book 1, hadith 119, it was narrated that Hubshi ibn Junada said, I heard the messenger of Allah say, Ali is part of me and I am part of him, and no one will represent me except Ali. The Holy Prophet said, May Allah bless Ali, O Lord. Render the truth always with Ali, so that wherever he is, the truth is with him too. That's Al-Tirmidhi, volume 6, book 46, hadith 3714. The reason I'm citing this, because the viewers, it's running live, so our Sunni brothers and sisters will have access if they need to go back and verify. And the sixth prerequisite, physically able, spiritually brave, and protects the Ummah against its enemies. Again, Ahmed ibn Hanbal, volume 4, pages 281, 368, and 370. Umar ibn Khattab says, congratulations, congratulations to you, O Ali. You have become my Mawla, my leader, and the leader of every faithful Muslim. In the battle of Khandaq, the trench, Prophet Muhammad said, the killing of Amr ibn Abdul Wud by Ali is better than the worship of jinn and human beings. Allah revealed the following verse in honor of Imam Ali. Quote, and it comes in the Quran, chapter 33, verse 25. And Allah turned back those who disbelieved in their rage. They achieved not only advantage, and Allah did suffice for the believers in fighting, for Allah is all strong, the Almighty. In the battle of Badr, Prophet Muhammad said, there is no man more valorous than Ali, and there is no sword sharper than Dhul al-Fiqar. In the battle of Uhud, after the Muslims broke the promises of Prophet Muhammad by escaping from the battle scene, having taken shelter in the mountain, Imam Ali protected and defended the Prophet and was prepared to sacrifice himself. Not only from every side of the enemies that attacked him, Imam Ali remained to repel the enemies. In the battle of Khaybar, it was Imam Ali who achieved victory for Islam. After the Prophet gave the banner of Islam to Abu Bakr, you may not know, he first gave it to Abu Bakr, then he gave the banner to Umar ibn Khattab. Both were facing defeat, so they returned back. Seeing the defeat of the two, the Prophet gave the banner of Islam to Imam Ali, who, unlike the others, never abandoned the battlefield by defeating the enemy with his successive attacks. So how do we have proof of that? Well, let's go to Sahih Muslim. It's in Sahih Bukhari too, but I'll just give you Sahih Muslim. Volume 6, book 44, hadith 6222, 6223, 6224. Quote, the Messenger of Allah said on the day of Khaybar, I shall give this flag to a man who loves Allah and His Messenger, and Allah and His Messenger love him. And Allah will grant him victory at his hands. Umar ibn Khattab said, I never desired to accept on that day the leadership. I never desired leadership except on that day. He said, I came before him in the hope, came before the Prophet, in the hope that he might be called to it, but the Messenger called Ali ibn Abi Talib. He gave it to him and said, march and do not turn around until Allah grant you victory. That's in Sahih Muslim. In the battle of Hunayn, Imam Ali was defending with his unsheathed sword in front of the Prophet. He killed 40 of the enemy troops in that battle. Imam Ali was ready to sacrifice his life by putting on the Prophet's clothes and lying in his bed at the night the enemies came to kill him. That's the time the Prophet left from Mecca to Medina for safety. Now what about the seventh? The seventh prerequisite, which is politically, militarily, and administratively experienced. Now, very interestingly, the UN, United Nations Secretariat, the Committee of Human Rights in New York, under the chairmanship then of Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, issued in 2002 this historic resolution, and I quote, the Caliph Ali bin Abi Talib is considered the fairest governor who appeared during human history after the Prophet Muhammad. For this reason, the World Organization for Human Rights called the rulers of the world to follow the example of Imam Ali's sound and humanitarian method in ruling that revealed the spirit of social justice and peace. The United Nations even advised Arab countries to take Imam Ali as an example in establishing a regime based on justice and democracy and encouraging knowledge. Abu Bakr sought Imam Ali's counsel on whether to wage war against the Romans. Imam Ali said, quote, "If you embark on this work, you will succeed," end quote. So Abu Bakr happily responded, "May you receive good tidings." And thereafter he ordered the expedition under the leadership of Khalid ibn Sa'd. Umar ibn Khattab consulted with Imam Ali on how to spend the immense wealth of Persia. Imam Ali said, "Once every year, distribute the riches among all people and leave none remaining in the treasury," end quote. See, administratively, consulting him, they always consulted him. Imam Ali's governors, ministers, and judges were advised to deal fairly, impartially, and justly with everybody, individually or collectively, without any discrimination. Not included in the Sunni prerequisites to becoming caliph is the necessity of never having bowed to idols any time in one's life. Imam Ali never bowed, never prostrated to idols, and his mother Fatima was also prevented from doing so when she was pregnant with Imam Ali. From the time he was in the womb of his mother, Allah protected him from bowing to idols. Therefore, it makes sense that the leadership of the Islamic Ummah is given to those who never bowed to idols at any time in their life. Hence, the logical succession to Prophet Muhammad can only be Imam Ali. Likewise, the heart of Prophet Muhammad, when he was a child, was purified, which set the stage for him to be messenger of Allah. Had the Prophet Muhammad prostrated before the idols, then Allah would not have appointed him as messenger. The same logic follows with Imam Ali as well, as Allah protected him from the time he was in the womb of his mother. Furthermore, since Ali ibn Abi Talib is far superior to any other person, based on the Sunni 7 prerequisites to be caliph, his appointment as successor to Prophet Muhammad should have been honored and fulfilled. Now we're going to add more justification to this. We are further reminded by the following verses from the Quran. Quran chapter 4, verse 80. Whoso obeys the apostle Muhammad, he indeed obeys Allah. And whoever turns away, we have not sent thee upon them to watch. That's in the Quran. And obey you Allah and his apostle Muhammad, and quarrel you not, for then you will be weakened in heart and will depart your prayer, and be patient. Verily Allah is with the patient ones. That's in the Quran, chapter 8, verse 46. Therefore, obedience to Prophet Muhammad is also obedience to Allah. This obedience is absolute and not restricted or conditional to any aspect or matter. So when Abu Bakr refused to grant Fatima, the daughter of Prophet Muhammad, her inheritance, was this not disobedience? Was this not against the Quran? When Uthman returned Marwan ibn Hakam from the exile that Prophet Muhammad had sent him, was this not disobedience? When Prophet Muhammad demanded a pen and paper to record his statement, but was refused by Umar, was this not disobedience? And you find this in Bukhari, Volume 1, Book 3, Hadith 114. In Muslim, Volume 4, Book 25, Hadith 4234. You find what I just gave you, that they were disobedient. When Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman quarreled with Prophet Muhammad as to why he put them under the command of the general, Usama, was this not disobedience? If you got a young kid, I know my son Norman and my son Robert were both West Pointers, they were taught about the military strategy, genius. The greatest strategic genius ever was Usama at the age of 18. Never got defeated. When Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was refused the Khalifa after Prophet Muhammad had declared him to be his successor, was this not disobedience? The 6 reliable Sunni books of Hadith confirm this obedience to Allah and Prophet Muhammad. In Bukhari, Volume 5, Book 64, Hadith 3951. In Sahih Muslim, Volume 2, Book 7, Hadith 2010. In Ibn Majah, Volume 1, Book 1, Hadith 3. And they're all listed as Sahih, authentic in these books. In Abu Dawood, Volume 1, Book 2, Hadith 1099. In At-Tirmidhi, volume 3, book 21, hadith 1672. In An-Nasa'i, volume 5, book 39, hadith 4198. So all of these 6 from Kutub al-Sitta say that that hadith is authentic, it is sahih. So Allah commands us to obey Him unconditionally, and furthermore, to obey Prophet Muhammad unconditionally, even if the Prophet is ill. The end result is that we must adhere to the verse from the Quran, which is to obey Allah and to obey Prophet Muhammad, as well as his Ahl al-Bayt, the 12 infallible Imams. Let us refer to the following verse from the Quran, as well as Sunni sources, on the matter of the pen and paper that Prophet Muhammad requested but was denied. In the Quran, it says, O you who believe, raise not your voices above the voice of the Prophet, and speak you not loud unto him as speak aloud some of you to the others, lest all your good deeds become null while you perceive not. You can't jadda with the Prophet. You can't raise your voice above him. And it's also in Sahih Bukhari, volume 1, book 3, hadith 114. I quote, narrated Ubaydullah ibn Abdullah. Ibn Abbas said, when the ailment of the Prophet became worse, he said, bring me writing paper, and I will write for you a statement after which you will not go astray. But Umar said, the Prophet is seriously ill, and we have got Allah's book with us, and that is sufficient for us. But the companions of the Prophet differed about this, and there was a hue and cry. On that, the Prophet said to them, go away and leave me alone. It is not right that you should quarrel in front of me. Ibn Abbas came out saying, it was most unfortunate, a great disaster, that Allah's messenger was prevented from writing that statement for them because of their disagreement and noise. That's Sahih Bukhari. Well, if that isn't enough for you, then let's go to Sahih Muslim. In volume 4, book 25, hadith 4234. It was narrated that Ibn Abbas said, when the messenger of Allah was dying, there were men in the house among whom was Umar ibn Khattab. The Prophet said, come, let me dictate for you a document after which you will not go astray. Umar said, the messenger of Allah is overcome with pain, and you have the Quran, the book of Allah is sufficient for us. The people in the house disagreed, and they urged some of them, they argued. Some of them said, come close and let the messenger of Allah dictate for you a document after which you will not go astray. Others agreed with what Umar had said. When their idle talk and argument in the presence of the messenger of Allah became too much, the Prophet said, get up and leave. Ubaydullah said, Ibn Abbas used to say, what a calamity it was when the messenger of Allah was prevented from dictating that document for them because of disagreement and noise. Sahih Muslim. So however, the pessimists would espouse the view that the Prophet could have had this statement written by Imam Ali, who was there, or someone else because they were in the presence as witnesses. Now, had the Prophet done so, those who disagreed with him would have seized the opportunity to further escalate the untruth that his illness overpowered him, thereby rendering him incapacitated. Then the dissidents would have publicized their view that the Prophet was not in control of his senses, thereby making the written statement lose its value. Nevertheless, there were those who wanted to atone for their ill treatment of the Prophet and offered to bring pen and paper to fulfill his request. But the Prophet was very disturbed, but nevertheless, he's responded, quote, after all that has been said, do you want to bring pen and paper? I recommend only that you should behave with my progeny. Having said that, he turned his face from those present, and they too got up and dispersed. Only Ali, Abbas, and Fadl remained. So the question still remains as to why Umar, who is the father-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad, did not come another day to bring pen and paper to the Prophet, since it was 3 days after the event that the Prophet died. So what prevented him from coming? He's a father-in-law. He can go in there. I can kick him out. Sunnis unequivocally state that Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim are considered authentic hadiths of Prophet Muhammad, and that these hadiths cannot be disputed. Therefore, let us thank Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim for making it perfectly clear that Prophet Muhammad was unjustly denied pen and paper to have his statement written. Now, for those who wish to hold to the premise that the 12 caliphs mentioned in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim are other than the 12 infallible imams, then who would they consider to be the 12 caliphs? Bear in mind that throughout the history of Islam there are over 150 caliphs. Sunni scholars and historians state that in addition to the four rightly guided caliphs, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Imam Ali, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, who was the grandson of Umar ibn Khattab, would also qualify as a rightly guided caliph. And keep in mind, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz was a very good man. He's the one that stopped the bashing of Imam Ali on the Mumbar in the mosque. And he's also the one that returned the Fadak back to Ahl al-Bayt. Guess what? He only served 2 years and then he died. They couldn't wait to get rid of him. So on more intentions that he probably was killed. Now, So Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, I said, would also qualify according to the Sunnis as a rightly guided caliph. Some of these scholars, historians, will also say, well, look, Imam Hassan ibn Imam Ali, because he became caliph for 6 months before his wife poisoned him and Muawiyah took over. Of course, both Sunni and Shia scholars agree that Muhammad al-Mahdi is a caliph, but with different interpretations as to his birth and occultation. Undoubtedly, the Sunnis are unable to arrive at the 12 names from this huge number of caliphs. An examination of the Sunni hadith reveals that the 12 names cannot apply to the Umayyad caliphs, as there were more than 12, and all of them, except Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, were tyrants and unjust rulers. Additionally, they were not from the Hashemite clan, a requirement declared by Prophet Muhammad. Furthermore, the Sunni hadith cannot apply to the Abbasid caliphs, as they were more than 12, and they too persecuted the descendants of Prophet Muhammad. Moreover, if only 6 or 7 of the caliphs were rightly guided, then there were about 145 caliphs that were not rightly guided. Therefore, the method of selecting a caliph that was implemented by Abu Bakr and Umar ibn Khattab proved ineffective and unjustified. And keep in mind that both Sunnis and Shias agree that Allah is the one who appoints Imam Muhammad al-Mahdi. They're in agreement on that. So why aren't they in agreement on the others? So history is replete with information as to how the majority of 145 caliphs were anything but rightly guided, as many were malicious, immoral, and violators of the tenets and decrees of Islam and the Quran, even though they accomplished great feats in spreading Islam, the sciences, and architecture. Therefore, we can only conclude that the system Abu Bakr and Umar ibn Khattab put in place for the succession of the Khalifa was doomed from its inception. Otherwise, how can we explain a system that allows succession to be anything but rightly guided? On the other hand, Shias have a system of rightly guided successors that are pure and righteous in all aspects of religion, politics, and the way of life. Shias refer to those rightly guided successors of the 12 caliphs as the 12 infallible imams, since there are no other 12 pure candidates upon whom righteousness all Muslims agree. Salawat ala Muhammad wa alihi. Now this is my 6th, tomorrow will be my 7th and concluding lecture, because I have, the next 3 days I have commitments, priorities. But tomorrow I will explain on all 15, the 15 includes the 12 imams, the Nabi Muhammad, Fatima Zahra, and Sid Zainab. I will explain the sabr, that their patience, how patient, that they were the epitome of having, the best of having the best sabr and best patient. And then I will conclude with giving you a case example of the leadership of Imam Hussein. So maybe 2/3 of my presentation will deal with the sabr of all of the 15, and then the last third of it will deal with just Imam Hussein. And now you will have come full circle. You have had all the information from these 6 lectures, plus tomorrow's lecture on sabr. And then you will truly begin to understand, you'll be able to defend your position that Imam Hussein was the rightly guided, or was the person who saved Islam. And in that note, he saved it as a triad. He saved it along with the help of Sid Zainab and his son Imam Sajjad. All 3 reinforced each other. And then, just so you get clarification, had Imam Hussein acted alone, his cause would have died in the sands of Karbala, or in Kufa, or in Damascus. We've never heard about it, but it was Sid Zainab who was the one that not only was his mustashad and advisor, because he called for her to advise, it was her who had, and that's why I think Sid Zainab could possibly be ma'suma, because there's no way that one can paralyze Ibn Ziyad or even Yazid with the eloquence of speech. It only has to come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that guided her to be able to do that, to save her nephew from being killed, and therefore to communicate the tragedy of Karbala. Keep also in mind that all mankind eventually will die. What will outlast mankind? The sands. The sands of Karbala will always remain. Even after everybody's died, the sands of Karbala will remain. Salawat al Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.